of Britain, a man who toyed with both Britain and America at his whim. Born into a family wealthy enough to rival nations, he chose to work in Africa, staying away for 10 years. Just when everyone assumed he had died there,
hell opened up.
he returned for the inheritance his father left behind, a legacy powerful enough to alter the outcome of the war between Britain and America. After leaving the church, Tom sought out his father's lawyer, Joseph. Through him, he learned that the inheritance was a piece of land called Nootka Sound, a plot coveted by numerous forces. At the burial ceremony, Tom muttered words in a language nobody could understand and smeared an unknown powder on his face. His strange behavior caught the attention of a beautiful woman nearby. She was his half-sister, and just a day earlier, she had been seen as the sole heir to the estate. Her husband had even negotiated a price with the powerful East India Company. However, according to British law, a son had the priority to inherit over a daughter. With Tom's return, this transaction was annulled. Tom's return also stirred the interest of powerful factions once more. After investigating his past 10 years, they came to a conclusion.
Awful and unnatural and, I'm sure, untrue.
That night, Tom returned to his father's old house, where he met the servant who had watched him grow up. The servant was now the only person Tom could trust.
This Nootka Sound is a curse, and I have sworn to do very foolish things.
The next day, Tom went to his father's former office. Just as he was about to open the door, a woman stopped him. She had occupied the place since his father's death, running a brothel there. When she learned Tom intended to reclaim her money-making site, she said,
I have girls, but I also have men. They've rust for hearts. If you have any sense.
I do not have any sense to ask.
Afterward, Tom was invited to the East India Company, where he met Stuart, the chairman of global affairs. Stuart wasted no time, expressing his desire to purchase the land from Tom. Tom's response was a blunt refusal. Seeing Tom's indifference, Stuart finally snapped.
Why don't you just open the fucking envelope?
Good day.
Well,
Tom hired 2 gravediggers to exhume his father and then brought in an anatomy doctor to find out the real cause of his father's death. What no one knew was that Tom's 10 years in Africa had exposed him to unimaginable suffering, a torment that also granted him ancient forbidden shamanic skills.
You're not here. So don't you dare stand there. Today, I have work to do.
The doctor had completed his work, revealing that Tom's father hadn't died naturally. He'd died from consuming a large amount of poison in a short period. Tom paid the doctor 3 silver coins and instructed him to rebury his father.
If this body is used for any other purpose, I will find you and I will kill you. I know things about the dead.
Tom's next step was to repay his father's debts.
Behold, 215 pounds and 17 shillings. You will form an orderly line.
At that moment, a fair-skinned, beautiful woman approached him. She introduced herself as his father's widow, making her Tom's stepmother, though he'd never met her before. She even presented documents to prove it. Realizing the implications, the lawyer hurriedly took her to his office. If the documents were verified, she would be entitled to half of the inheritance by local law. The news reached the East India Company, who had eyes everywhere. After their offer to buy the port was rejected, the appearance of this woman rekindled their hopes. Lawyer Joseph brought them the critical piece of information they'd been waiting for.
A dispatch arrived from Dublin. The marriage is confirmed and is legal.
bravo! A whore actress to the rescue of the mighty East.
But for her to succeed, she'd have to file a lawsuit, and her chances of winning weren't high.
An event which may be imminent.
The next day, Tom discovered the white horse tied outside his door was gone. The audacious thief had even left his name. Tom knew this name all too well.
Atticus!
Just then, a man named Atticus arrived, infamous as London's most notorious executioner. For the right price, he'd kill anyone. He told Tom that someone had paid to take his father's life.
Gentleman comes in, sit right there where you are now. Say about old Norris Delaney. I sailed with old Norris all around the world.
And who was this gentleman?
Seeing Atticus was a capable man, Tom decided to pay him to work for him. Thus, two tough men joined forces. Late at night, Tom noticed someone following him. When he turned around, he found it was a little girl. She had overheard that a man named Big Silver Fang was planning to harm Tom. She led Tom to the ship where Silver Fang was supposed to be. To avoid alerting anyone, Tom anchored his boat far away and swam to the ship. When he climbed aboard, the man wasn't there. Since he was already there, Tom didn't leave empty-handed. He poured gasoline on the floor and set the ship on fire. When he returned to his small boat, the girl had disappeared. The next day, he visited the brothel owner, Higer, to gather information. Higer claimed she didn't know where Big Silver Fang was, but she did know who he worked for. Tom went to the address Higer gave him, where he met Dr. Barton, a surgeon. With a knowing look, Tom revealed Barton's other identity, an American spy planted in Britain. When Barton asked what Tom wanted,
I want a line of conference with the President of the 15 States of America.
Faced with a double-barrel shotgun, even the tough Tom had to retreat. On his way back, someone targeted him. A man pretended to be a passerby, but Tom saw right through his motives. The man threatened a woman and began undressing her, all because she owned the highly coveted land that could make anyone wealthy. The man promised her unimaginable wealth if she signed a transfer agreement.
I've been told to await a better offer.
The day before, a man's body was found on the beach. It was Big Silver Fang, who had attacked Tom and been killed in return. To send a message to other hitmen and stop them from working for the East India Company, Tom dug out Silver Fang's heart. Meanwhile, Tom woke up after being treated by American spy doctor Barton. As a representative of the United States, Barton hoped Tom would sell the land to them. After Tom refused, Barton decided to torture him, but he severely underestimated Tom. When brute force didn't work, Barton tried to use persuasion instead.
So what do you want? Tea?
You tell Carlsbad that I want tea. A monopoly.
You should have said that from the start.
Back home, Tom tended to his wounds. The previous night's assassination attempt made him realize that all factions were now desperate. He had his servant deliver a letter to the British royal family, offering to turn over the port to the nation. Meanwhile, the East India Company received a document from lawyer John. It was Tom's will. The will stated that upon his death, the port would be directly given to the United States as a gift.
It is now in our urgent interest to keep the bastard alive.
Not long after, a special guest arrived at Tom's old house. As his father's widow, she had successfully claimed half of the port's ownership, as well as half of the property's ownership. Helpless, Tom allowed her to stay. Later, as Tom's stepmother was preparing to return to the old house after a performance, she was stopped by a woman who claimed to be a fan. The woman invited her to accompany her to her idol's home. After they left, the stepmother realized that the woman had an ulterior motive. A duke had taken an interest in her, and now they were on their way to his estate. The carriage soon stopped. As the stepmother stepped out, she was immediately seized and brought before the plump duke.
You will wear it for me tonight.
There appears to have been a misunderstanding.
I'm the fucking Duke of Richmond. He's on the gallows before Mass!
Tom knew it was all part of the royal family's plot. The royal family could now arrest his stepmother and force her to surrender the land ownership. Sure enough, the next morning, a group of royal guards came to the house.
What's happening?
You must hold out. You will hold out. Look at me. I will warn the East India and they will free you. Hold out.
Thus, Tom's stepmother was taken away. This is where the story picks up from the beginning. Just as the men were about to do something to her, the East India Company's agents arrived. They were the only ones who could oppose the royal family in London. If the stepmother signed the agreement, they would be completely cut off from Nootka Sound. Tom knew this and used it to his advantage, allowing his stepmother to escape. Through this incident, Tom's stepmother fully realized her situation. She decided not to fight Tom for control of the port and instead chose to join his side, uniting with him against other forces. That evening, Tom and his stepmother attended a ball where he encountered his half-sister and her husband. The man despised Tom simply because Tom had taken away his wife's inheritance. Enraged, the man vented his fury at Tom, but Tom easily lifted him out of the room by the scruff, like a chicken. Realizing he was about to become the laughingstock of the event, the man decided to salvage the situation.
I declare it! I challenge James Delaney to a duel to the death!
It would appear that my life is more precious than yours.
Having heard that reselling gunpowder was profitable, Tom found a gunpowder manufacturer and tossed his remaining silver coins to George, asking him to work for him. George, having never seen money before, eagerly accepted. The next day, the two arrived at a remote farm where they would manufacture gunpowder. George tasted cow dung first and then chewed pigeon droppings. They also needed 200 liters of urine as raw material, but the hardest part was refining the saltpeter. Amid the conflict between Britain and America, all saltpeter was tightly controlled by the British royal family. Trying to get a hold of it seemed nearly impossible. The only place left with saltpeter was the East India Company's warehouse. After sending George off, Tom prepared to return to town, but no matter how hard he tugged, his white horse wouldn't budge. The horse's strange behavior made Tom sense danger. Cautiously, he moved forward and not long after, a large man appeared out of nowhere and kicked him. The two fought, but Tom was soon overwhelmed. The next day, Tom visited Hager at the brothel, where he could solve his urine shortage problem. He asked Hager to bring the girls to the farm, reminding them to drink plenty of water. Then, Tom found Atticus.
And I'm planning a robbery.
Who we gonna rob?
That night, a girl sent by Hager knocked on the warehouse door.
An emperor was versed in the temptations of the tropics.
At the same time, another girl sealed the security guard's break room from the outside.
Pearl's good, isn't she?
With Hager's help, Atticus and the others made their way into the courtyard. They carefully carried the containers and approached the warehouse where the saltpeter was stored.
Keep moving!
The warehouse was raided, and the East India Company's higher-ups were furious. They knew that only Tom in all of London would dare to do such a thing. Soon after, a high-priced bounty was placed on Tom's whereabouts, and the promise of a huge reward for anyone who found him lured many to track him down. The first lucky man to track Tom followed him into the wilderness, but lost him at a corner.
Now, are you king or are you company?
To make an example, Tom severed the man's artery and walked away. To ensure that no one would betray him, Tom decided to establish his dominance. After all, the East India Company was paying far too much. Tom made it clear that he knew who was going to betray him.
I know which one of you it is, because he will be of no use to me. He will be of no use. I am inside your heads, gentlemen.
Next, Tom went to Hager's brothel. He first pulled out half of a thumb as a warning, then took out a diamond from his pocket.
You choose.
Even so, there were still those who, driven by the bounty, weren't afraid of death. At this critical point in the Anglo-American conflict, gunpowder became the most sought-after strategic resource for both sides. Tom, being one of the few capable of producing gunpowder, quickly became the focus of attention. Before long, American spy Barton sought him out. News from the front lines indicated they would only have enough gunpowder for 10 more days. However, as an Englishman, if Tom were to hand over the gunpowder to them, it would be considered an act of treason. Just as Tom was about to refuse, Barton played his trump card. he recited the exact location of Tom's gunpowder-producing farm. It turned out that Barton's people had already infiltrated Tom's circle. If Barton grew desperate and revealed the situation to the British royal family, Tom would surely be executed for treason. After receiving Barton's promise of safe passage to America, Tom agreed. However, he insisted that the gunpowder be ready within 8 days. Tom then found his chemist, George, who explained that producing gunpowder in such a short time required adding chlorides. However, gunpowder with chlorides needed to be stirred constantly for 24 hours a day, and the stirring had to be delicate and stable. Even a passing fart could cause an explosion.
And where do we get this chloride?
Tom decided to take the risk and instructed George to work on the chlorides. The next day, Tom brought in workers to take shifts, stirring the gunpowder to ensure safety. With everyone working tirelessly day and night, the first batch of gunpowder was successfully produced. To transport the gunpowder out of London and send it to the front lines, Barton used his connections to spread a massive rumor. 6 people died from cholera. As the scene shifted, a convoy carrying 50 tons of gunpowder set off. They arrived at the city gates after dark. Despite Tom informing the guards that the cart was carrying cholera-infected bodies, the guards insisted on performing a routine inspection.
Go!
What happened?
Good work, boy.
Outside the gates, Barton had been waiting for some time. After delivering the gunpowder, Tom warned him.
If my factory is discovered, I will know where to find you.
The next morning, at the East India Company's headquarters, they received shocking news. The farm's owner, seeking the bounty, had reported Tom's treasonous actions.
Gentlemen, we have Delaney's factory.
No one noticed the secretary, Frege, who was nervously sitting by. After work, he rushed to Tom and revealed everything that had been discussed in the company's meeting.
I will deal with it. Go home.
After sending Frege away, Tom went to his factory and ordered everyone to move the gunpowder immediately. However, George refused, citing the instability of the gunpowder.
We are leaving now because we have been betrayed.
No excuses.
Meanwhile, in a church in the city, the priest received his first confessor of the day. At this moment, Tom had already transported the gunpowder via water. As expected, the East India Company's men were left empty-handed. In retaliation, they destroyed Tom's only ship, which was being guarded by Atticus's men. That night, Tom confronted Atticus, demanding an explanation.
You were meant to be guarding a ship.
Leave this body where it will be found. You can keep the heart.
In a foul mood, Tom went to the riverbank to vent, accompanied by Higer's daughter, Winter. She was there to bring Tom some wine. After drinking, Tom passed out and slept through the night. When he woke up, however, he was greeted by Winter's lifeless body. He stared from a distance as others prayed for her, knowing that Higer must now consider him a murderer.
There's no certainty if it's James who did it.
There's no certainty that he did not.
Sure enough, the next day, Higer visited the East India Company and revealed everything about Tom supplying gunpowder to the Americans.
Treason. High treason. Gentlemen.
Sir, what?
After work, Frege hurriedly told Tom the news, but Tom seemed to have already anticipated it. He went to a tavern and told an actor,
Very quickly, and very, very quietly.
The special forces sent by the royal family had arrived. They arrested Tom for treason. According to British law, once a criminal confesses to treason, all of their property is forfeited to the state. With that, the coveted Nootka Sound would become theirs. To force Tom to confess, they subjected him to inhumane torture, with a doctor on standby to provide medical assistance. But Tom understood that if he gave in, he would truly lose his life. He insisted on meeting with Stuart, the chairman of the East India Company, and promised that after the meeting, he would personally confess to his crimes. Faced with this machine that seemed impervious to pain, they had no choice but to comply. Soon after, Stuart entered the prison cell. Tom threatened him, demanding that the charges against him be dropped and that Higer be set free. In addition, he demanded that a ship be prepared for him to leave Britain. 10 years ago, Stuart had been involved in the illegal slave trade. During one sea voyage, a disaster struck. and over 100 slaves perished at sea. Tom was the only survivor. If Tom exposed this, the East India Company would face condemnation from all corners of society.
You have 4 hours.
Back at the company, Stewart immediately ordered his men to carry out Tom's demands. They sent Hyger and his companion out of the city, where they were handed over to Atticus and his men. As a return favor, Atticus silenced them, taking care of the situation for Stewart. Meanwhile, Tom emerged from the prison, with Stewart rescinding all charges against him. As long as he received the promised safe conduct from Barton, he would be able to leave Britain aboard a ship provided by the East India Company. But Barton, having other plans, demanded that Tom trade Nootka Sound in exchange for the safe passage. It turned out that Barton was not only an American spy, but also an agent for the East India Company. He had been working for Stewart all along. The double agent Barton met a grim end, and Tom's companions were ready with all the supplies. They just had to wait for the East India Company's ship to arrive to leave. At that moment, one of Stewart's trusted men arrived with the passage documents. Meanwhile, the royal regent issued a death sentence for Tom. But Tom had already anticipated everything. He ordered his people to lie in ambush and prepare for battle. Soon, a group of British special forces arrived at the dock. And with an explosion, Tom's war with the royal family truly began. They guarded the city gates, fending off wave after wave of special forces. For their survival, everyone, old and young, men and women, took up arms to fight. Even the timid George fought furiously. Tom and Atticus, dragging George, rushed toward the ship, but the crafty soldiers blocked the only boarding point. Just as they were at an impasse, the ship slowly began to leave.